All right. Kia ora, everybody. What's up? It is Robett, and I am joined today, 1st of April, first of the new financial year.
Ah,
Clearly, it's starting off shit for everyone, but we're lucky to be joined by good bro Dave Downs. How are you, my friend?
I'm very good. Hey, pinch and a punch for the first of the month.
There you go. I'm in San Fran, so I'm one day behind, but I'm with you in spirit for the pinch and the
Oh,
punts.
are you
Uh,
self-isolating on another continent? Good on you.
yes, got the whānau here. My got the full gang rolling, which is good. So family safe and all that. Whereabouts are you at?
Excellent. I'm in Devonport in the North Shore of Auckland.
And you got some books are rolling heavy behind you. You got I see a
Yeah,
marketing
actually.
book. I see. What's your favorite book right now?
Uh, oh, hang on. Look, given you asked, probably this would have to
Oh,
be my favorite book right now. Thank you for the prompt.
it- clearly not available in bookstores
It's a book.
right
It's a
now.
book. Oh no, it's been sold out. It's on Kindle though. But actually, most of that is just wallpaper, just to make me look intelligent.
Yeah,
It's not
you always
working.
see that in certain like in ESPN and stuff when they bring in certain guests, they always have just their background can tell a lot about what's going on.
That's right.
Um, Heaps on. So
This
give
is
a bit
what's
for
going
those
on
who
at the moment, actually. Sorry, just that we can tell we're learning a lot about each other's lives. That's one positive thing that's coming out of the coronavirus
hmm,
is you start to see people in their natural environment, like with the kids running around and people are cooking dinner and at their kitchen table or sitting on their bed or whatever. And it makes you realize that look, we're all just humans. We're all going through this together. It's not there's no magic here.
yeah. So I guess I'll jump on that before we can do the intro because I think it's really interesting. So I have this thing I call the sauna effect,
So,
right? So at the gym I used to go to in Auckland, would be Next Gen, right? And I'd go early in the morning, and I'd go, I'd usually be there, I don't know, 6:30, whatever it was when I used to go, and it's all the CEOs and execs. Super early, knocking it out
yeah,
and piss off. But what you do is afterwards you go into the sauna, and in the sauna you just have your boxes on, sitting there, and there's no you're just sitting there and you don't know what anyone does or
yeah,
who anyone is, and you just talk and say, oh yeah, Bob this, Joe and Joe that, you yarning away, and you have like an authentic real conversation, and then you go out and then they get changed and they put the suit on and they've got the
yeah.
pocket square and they've got the car keys and they've got the watch, and all these things become layers of who their external
Persona.
self is. The
Mm,
persona is all these
mm,
layers and all these shells and all this armor. I call it like armor. There's all this armor that happens, and then what I kind of like is the purity of the sauna when it's just you don't know who everyone is and it doesn't matter because you're just talking to them as a person. And
yeah,
I think with
love
this,
it.
you're exactly right. Even just like some of these chats, like just popping in and you're in their living room, you're in their family space, and just watching how people navigate this.
Yeah.
I think it's humanizing leadership, and I think it's creating a lot more empathy for others within organizations.
Yeah, I love it. I love the sauna affair. All you've got is your little handkerchief, hopefully,
Yep.
and then the quality of what you've got to say. It's a really good analogy.
So I think we've skipped a few steps.
Oh, sorry,
Dave,
mate.
please give an introduction to the world who may not know who you are. Feel free
Oh,
to go for
kia
it.
ora tātou. So my name is David Downs, and I've known Robert for a while, quite a while. I've many sort of different roles. One of them is I work for New Zealand Trade and Enterprise, so the government agency that helps exporting New Zealand businesses and bringing investment to New Zealand. So I kind of work that in my day job. I do that about 3 days a week. And then in other jobs, I'm on some boards. I do a lot of sort of work with some charities, and particularly around cancer. Cancer, here we go. Look at that. And at the moment, I'm also kind of helping out, trying to help some small businesses stay alive as well. So it's a busy time.
Yeah, it's I figured you'd be a good one to have a yarn with as well. So what we've been doing is, I think you've been checking in, is I've just kind of just open up my Rolodex to all the gang and be like, all right,
Nice.
where you're at, what's going on, how's your headspace, what's the buzz? So how's your how's your how are you actually prioritizing your time right now? Because I'm imagining at the NZTE side, the
Yeah.
business export thing has been pumped. So maybe talk me through at a macro what this means from a financial standpoint for New Zealand exports. Maybe we'll start with some serious stuff and then we'll get to some banter
Yeah,
later.
cool. I mean, the key thing is, and most people will know this now, is that we are facing two massive crises at the same time. Globally, one is a health crisis, and quite rightly that's got the priority at the moment. But the other one is an economic crisis, and that's the one that will have the priority as soon as we get through the worst of this health crisis. So in the meantime, those of us who work in kind of economic development are trying our best to do whatever little things we can to make sure that, you know, whenever we can kind of go back into economic development work, there is as much left and as much kind of standing as we can make it. So for exporters at the moment in New Zealand, clearly it's pretty tragic. You know, the channels to market are all cut off. There's very little freight going in and out of the country at the moment. And of course, you know, their customers are all locked up and sitting in their homes, so they're not spending money. And that's the big challenge that we've got. You know, an economy works when people spend money, because what you spend is someone else's income. So that's the challenge. We're all sort of stopped spending money. And that's why you see the government doing these big economic and fiscal insertions of cash into the economy, you know, buying back bonds or whatever it might be. Because basically the way to kickstart an economy, which we learned 100 years ago during the Great Depression, is for the government to be the one that spends money first, and then everyone else will start to follow. But as I say, the key priority at the moment, quite rightly, is solve the healthcare problem, the health issues. And we don't know how long that'll take, but maybe a month, maybe 2, maybe 3. But once we're through that, then absolutely we've all got to swing into action. And those of us who work in this area, or business owners, or wherever it is, people like yourself, even Robert, we've got to collectively go, right, how are we going to actually build up this economy again as quickly as possible? And I would say, just to add a little bit of my own personal belief in here, we've got to do it in a way that makes us realize that we can't be this consumerist, you know, take type culture. Like this is, I reckon, should be teaching us a valuable lesson, that actually the kind of edifice of what we collectively have built economically around the world hasn't, you know, clearly it's sort of just all crumbled in about 3 or 4 weeks. So
yeah,
clearly we've got to look at the fundamental underpinnings of how society works and how equitable we can be and all that sort of stuff to make sure that we are building something really robust that respects the planet, that respects people, that allows everybody to participate in wealth creation, all that sort of stuff. That's my personal belief coming through there.
No. I totally get it. I think you broke it down really well, David. We have a medical issue, then a financial issue. Have you been comfortable and confident with the actions that the government has taken in terms of the medical side, the way they're navigating, giving police, I guess, additional power, shutting down everything they've shut down that's not necessarily essential? Do you think they've missed any gaps there? It feels like they went fast and hard and early, and they went aggressive, and it feels that New Zealanders are really on the same page because it's hit every single person, right? Like, what's your take on that from, I guess, a medical side with how the government's reacted?
Yeah, and I'm not a doctor and I'm not an epidemiologist. I've just got a great admiration for the difficult decisions that politicians are making, and I'd also say I'm really heartened by the fact that it feels like in most of the world, but you know, New Zealand in particular, it looks like the politicians are really listening to the scientists and the doctors and taking their advice, and that's not always been the case in some of the other sort of challenges we've seen. So I think here in New Zealand, we're very lucky to have some quite decisive action. I think what I'm really heartened by also is the fact that it's become non-partisan, and all the political parties seem to be sort of rowing in the same direction now. And you know, I saw Sir John Key yesterday making some comments about the Prime Minister and what she's doing, and you know, very, very complimentary and positive, and that's fantastic. Like, we can't let this become a partisan issue, because it's not. So I think from that point of view, it's great, and I think every New Zealander should just be almost proud and delighted to be locked up at home. You know, that like we are doing our bit to save people. And I know, having been someone who's been an at-risk person in terms of my immune system, and I've got lots of friends who still have really compromised immune systems, that us staying home is critical. You know, this isn't just a cold. This is something that will kill many people if we don't take it seriously. So we should, as I say, we should get up every morning and be proud that we're doing our duty by sitting on our couch.
Yep, and watching Netflix with free unlimited broadband, thanks to the telcos.
That's right. There's an upside to this whole scenario. Yeah, we're really catching up on our binge watching.
Nick, Elias says, David, great job last night. Showed great leadership. What did you do last night?
Oh, mate, 2 things. I don't know which one he's talking about. There were two things. One is yesterday I'm on the board of the High Tech Trust, which does the High Tech Awards here in New Zealand.
Yeah, I'm a judge. Yeah.
Oh, you're a judge. Yeah, of course, mate. Yeah. And you do a great job. And so last night we launched the finalists. We sort of announced them. We were going to have this big sort of ceremony a week ago at PwC, our sponsor, but of course that had to stop. So we did it on a video launch last night. So that might have been one thing. Or the other thing was one of the things I've been doing in my spare time a week ago when I sort of got locked up at home is I started thinking about what I could do personally to help, as well as what I do in my job. And I set up this little online shop, if you like, to help cafes and restaurants and bars just try and stay alive.
Is this soscafe.co.nz?
Yeah, sos.cafe.nz, and we launched that just sort of 5 or 6 days ago, and we just flipped over $35,000 of sales this morning.
Holy shit! Good job.
300 cafes are now listed, 700 or 800 orders coming through, so it's going gangbusters, and all that money goes straight to the cafes. I don't take anything. This is not a business thing. This is purely I knew how to set up, a website, and some lovely people from Shopify came in and helped me do it, and we just moved fast. So yeah, so hopefully that's going to go well.
That's awesome, dude. I'm just going to try and bring it up here. So we can see it. There we go.
You've got the technology. There you go.
Mate, I have the technology.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so beautiful little website there. As I say, my friends at Shopify helped me build. And
so talk me through it.
You'll find a whole lot of restaurants, bars, cafes, hopefully your local favorite. And my theory was, because I was sort of sitting at home going, I really know the little cafe guy down the road. I love having a chat with him when I pop in. He's a small business owner, and he's going to really struggle. Yes, the government's giving some money around pay, but it's not helping him out with his fixed costs and his rent and all that sort of stuff. So the idea is here is every time I go and make myself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, I could come on here and go, right, I'm going to buy a voucher, $5 or whatever it would normally cost me. It's not like I'm not going to get the value. When this is all over, I'll be able to go and visit and get my cup of tea or cup of coffee, and these guys get the cash now when they need it, and help them.
That's cool. Yeah, I was just thinking on that because I know Francesca's in Wanaka. It's a great spot. Was the idea of surely these cafe owners are sitting at home doing nothing, but exactly to your point, when they go and get the coffee from the, from Billy, who makes the best coffees of all time, whatever. You kind of wonder if all of those cafes could potentially. Oh, sorry, give me one sec. Could potentially create their own mini morning Facebook live show on their Facebook page with Billy, the coffee guy. And you could jump in and have banter, and then you could actually be talking shit with the coffee guy.
I love it. And we need a bit of smell-o-vision so you can get that little sort of wafting smell of.
But just it could be there with the little cafe. So if you're a cafe owner, you could do it, but then have a call to action within the content itself to go to SOS Cafe. So you could tune in for your morning coffee, own social time for your local area, and be able to link it through.
You're an ideas man, Robert. You're an ideas man.
I am, but I love the tech of it too, because it makes sense. I would, because I have, when I was in Wanaka, I'd always go to Largo, and there'd be a spare little cafe, and they do an extra hot micro, my eggs Benny. I have a system, right? I have a thing. And but whenever there's mega banter, I would happily sit there with a cuppa at home, watching my special coffee person or the person from my cafe talking shit with what's happening in the neighborhood, and own that localism, because outside of that, those relationships, no one else is going to tune in unless they actually care anyway. So it's kind of like a win-win. So free ideas, there you go.
Goes back to that point I was making earlier about being sort of the way that we think about our economy. It's got to be about how we create local communities and kind of the bubbles that we're now in. Expand that bubble to your community, and how do you help each other out in your community? And if everyone did that, and I'm being really sort of lefty, but if everyone did that, then that's how society can look after itself. That's again a positive thing that's happening at the moment, is that we are encouraged and incented to basically look out for our neighbours, make sure that the old guy down the road is getting his shopping or whatever it might be. So these cafe owner things, the idea here is a lot of them, and they're not very technologically sophisticated, because they don't know how to set up a website or a e-commerce channel. And I did, so I'm just trying to help them out.
Good on you, man. So you got 35. It's been really cool seeing all the Kiwis create a whole bunch of different types of things to do their little piece, right? Which is quite cool. I like that. It's a good on you. So it's soscafe.co.nz. And I think it looks like you've got what? You've got over 100 different. How many you got here now?
Now 300. 300. We had about 150 come in yesterday, so we're now just trying to work out. This is a classic small business problem, because we, not that we're a business, but we're trying to scale now. So we've got all these requests to be added, and actually, to your point about your favorite little cafe in Wanaka, most of the requests, or many of the requests, are coming from customers going, "Oh, I love this little coffee shop down the road. Can you contact them and get them signed up for me?" And so we've been doing that. And
surely the hospitality industry or something would have a database of all that, wouldn't they? Wouldn't it be just one email database?
we've been in touch with them actually, and Zomato, who does the whole, or Zomato, you say Zomato, I say Zomato, who do the online, reviews. They've been helping out as well. So yes, lots of people coming together on it. It's cool.
Yeah,
But
nice.
I'm doing that in my spare time. Literally, I stop my work. I spend an hour doing that, and then I go back to my work, and then at the evening I try and do a bit more just to try and help out.
I get it, man. Illyri Williams says, hi from Haka Tourism Group. Oh, what up? Mates with Ryan, he's a fun legend. You guys rock. David, you have a heap of books behind you. In the time, which is true test of leadership, any reading suggestions?
Yeah,
Oh,
man.
there you go. Go for it.
Apart
Apart from your book.
my book, thank you very much, Hilary. No, there's one. I'm not going to find it in a hurry, but there's one book I would highly recommend that you read for a time like this, and it's called Man's Search for Meaning. Man's Search for Meaning, and basically, it was given to me at a time when I was going through a really tough time. I had cancer and was terminal at cancer, and was stuck in a hospital for months and months on end. And this book is a wonderful short read, not an easy read. It's a difficult read. It's about the Holocaust and about one person's reaction to that. But there's a leadership lesson in there, or a sort of a personal leadership lesson, which is around how you find meaning and how meaning is more important than happiness, which is a controversial topic.
Huh.
So I think that would be my number one pick for a book, Man's Search for Meaning. Now I'm going to try and find it, but I won't be able to in a hurry. So beautiful, beautiful book.
Export, New Zealand timelines. How much of a dent has this hit the economy in the last month?
Oh, massively. I don't think we yet know how much.
We're talking in the tens of billions. We're talking.
Well, I mean, one example that's sort of out there already is Air New Zealand. It's a $6 billion company is now a $500 million company. So we've lost $5 billion and change. Luckily, one of the very positive things for New Zealand is that we're a net exporter of food, and the world needs food, and we will continue to be an exporter, a significant exporter of food. So that part of our economy will stay strong, assuming that we can, just keep the supply chains going. Other parts of our economy are also good. If you think about the technology sector, that's a sector I've been quite heavily involved in. That will have some challenges in terms of, will the customers be there? But the actual creation and export of the technology is no longer a barrier. Probably the biggest single sector is the tourism sector for New Zealand, and maybe education. Those two are probably the single biggest sectors where we're going to see massive upheavals. So I think New Zealand, clearly it's having a massive impact. As I say, I don't think we know yet how big, but I think there are certain sectors of the economy that will stay relatively strong, and will be, and others that will need significant work.
Yeah. Have you been obviously, I guess you're in many respects paid by the government, but wearing your personal opinion hat, have they come hard enough with the government subsidies and the money that they've tried to pump back in? Do you think there's going to be another round that they're going to have to do if the medical side isn't sorted in the next 6 weeks?
Yeah, I think this is personal opinion, not no insight whatsoever. But again, what we know is that the way you recover from situations like this is by government spending money. Governments in other parts of the world have been, doing wage subsidies, the same that we've been doing. They've been signalling intent, to spend money on infrastructure. I noticed yesterday that Minister Twyford made a similar comment. So New Zealand already had a significant infrastructure investment announced, just a couple of months ago. That's probably going to grow even more as the government looks for massive projects that will, create jobs and create little mini ecosystems around them. So I think we'll inevitably see more government intervention. It wouldn't surprise me, and again, completely personal opinion, it wouldn't surprise me if we see some of the sort of really macro interventions like wage and price freezes coming into play, which we haven't seen in New Zealand since the 80s. But those are the really big macro things that you have to do to control an economy while it's rebuilding itself to stop rampant inflation.
Yeah, like you can tell the energy of the people was starting to get pretty panicky quite quick, and then just the way the government came through fast and was like, boom, cash, everyone just calmed the farm, and it kind of felt like it reset a bit. And so now it feels like there's kind of positive momentum building to some respect of like, we're in it together. There's only 3 more weeks. Let's just get in the part. And I'm imagining that if we can, be good boys and girls and stay at home and hopefully, levels out a bit, I'm imagining it'd be a 1-2 punch of like, well done, New Zealand. You've done flipping epic and everyone's been good. We've now kind of
Yeah.
managed to have the squeeze. And on top of that, and because you've been good boys and girls, here's another flipping whatever, just to get so you kind of like, I can go outside. Sweet.
Yeah.
Let's go do something. I feel it needs to be that, or else if it's the timing of it, I feel this like boxing. I'm looking
Yeah.
at it of just like, okay, what's the move? What's the play with chess? Like how do you bring the morale back up? How do you big one that Sam was talking about, Sam Stubbs, the CEO of Simplicity, was talking about yesterday was the staffing, the momentum, the true cost of if you basically just piss everyone off and then 4 weeks later have to hire everyone back on, the morale and the morals and ethics of a business, like the true cost of that for economy and businesses will be so savage.
Yeah.
So
and that's what it's interesting to me to see some of the reactions of some businesses, who've let staff go early or whatever it might be. And I find that difficult to see how that's, a good thing in the long run. I'm involved with a few companies where, for example, they've had to negotiate with staff to take a pay holiday or a pay cut or sort of share the pain. And that model seems to me to be a good one. If we're in this for a few weeks or maybe even a month or two, then that's a good one. But kind of getting rid of staff seems to me like that's the kind of counterintuitive, because staff are the most valuable asset for any business, and so you want to build keep your relationship with your staff, keep your culture going, all that kind of stuff. So, no, I'm not in a position to judge any given company, but but the companies that I'm involved with, my advice to them is, negotiate or ask all your staff to take a haircut on their pay or defer that or use up all their leave or whatever. But whatever you do, don't let them go, because they're going to be massive assets for you when we come back from this.
Yeah, the timing of that for sure. If you were a New Zealand export business right now, you're a small company, you've got products or goods, you're thinking of going out, what would be kind of the best way that they should be approaching it to do specific things right now? Like what can they be doing in this lockdown that's practical and tactable and a bit more actionable to try and reset either the strategy of their business or what they should be thinking about after you come out of this? Because it's a lot of almost forced strategic time right now, right?
Yeah, it is, and some businesses seem to be taking advantage of the time. I mean, it's a difficult question to answer at a macro level, but talk about some of the micro things that I've seen happen. Firstly, I'd do a shout out for the team who've created Manaki.io.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've had them on here. In fact, I think you did.
Yeah, Pat and Montz and the gang, they've been smashing it. Yep.
Amazing little, what started little has become really important intervention at a very tactical level, which is what you need at the moment. We always talk about strategy. Actually, sometimes you just need some tactics. And so I've just been admiring what they've done there. I've seen businesses who are looking, for example, at how they structure their financial side of it. I mean, that sounds really boring, but the banks and the accounting firms, etc., are busy as anything trying to help companies understand how to structure debt or look at their financial situations. And I've seen a couple of the major banks be pretty good. I'd say almost not, I wouldn't say generous, but but great at working with medium and small businesses on debt structuring or deferred payments, or being a bit more loose around what are the necessities for underwriting, all those sorts of things. So that's some good conversations to be had if you're not having them with your bank. Don't be afraid of that. Similarly with other debtors, or creditors. Sorry, you should be talking to your creditors. One thing I've been really encouraging the companies that I've been talking to is pay your bills early, or on time or early. Because the thing you shouldn't do, the thing that really seizes up an economy, is when people stop paying their bills. So if you're sitting on cash and someone gives you an invoice, pay them immediately. Get the money flowing, because other people need the cash. So I know that's sort of a separate thing.
Yeah.
And then of course the key thing is you do take some time to do some research and do some thinking about your business and where the opportunities are going to come at the end of this. Because I tell you what, I can completely predict some people are going to make a hell of a lot of money in the next 5 to 10 years, and it's the people that are being smart now, who are who are deeply thinking about where the opportunities are going to be and how they're going to take them. So it won't be me, because I'm not smart enough, but there'll be people right now who are seeing opportunity here, and good on them.
Funny you say that. I was on a call before with a couple of buddies, and I've been saying to them for a couple of weeks now. I said, if you were to look now at what happened after the global financial crisis of 2007-8, and you saw the pockets of where massive opportunity actually lied after it, instead of being reactionary to the day of what's happening to this moment, actually think about where that wave goes to, like chess, and like look at what's happened with housing, logistics, transportation, setup, blah blah. And so we literally had a conversation about, okay, what does that mean if, like, how do these businesses set up? Where's the people want connection, but how does that exist on the line in a better way that has depth? How do you build brand virtually? How do you, like, all these kind of different questions? Because as soon as these things start to go, because a classic one I've seen is this massive wave of everyone who never really gave a shit about social all of a sudden trying to add value to others out of nowhere, and it's like, no. Your cash is dried up. You're trying to milk and exploit your network to try and sell shit. Stuff you. And I think it's exposing a lot, but at the same time, it's massive opportunity. Exactly to your point.
And the other thing, if you're a smart business today, you're going to think about, what does the future consumer or customer feel and look like post this scenario? And my strong belief is that we're going to come out of this with a much more socially conscious kind of awareness of consumerism, of the need for corporate social responsibility. I think all the stuff, the woke stuff that kind of the latest generations, the millennials, etc., have been going on about, I think that it's proven to be extremely true. I'm not being derogative when I say that. And I think if you're a business coming out of the back of this, you've got to think about, how do you appeal to a very socially conscious set of consumers who do not want to see rampant corporate greed, and so therefore you've got to think differently. And so things like the pay one give one model, which is started off in the sort of social enterprise space, but now will start to migrate. Think about equity and how businesses can create better social equity and things like that. Again, I'm sounding really lefty here, but I just think it's a pragmatic way to think at the moment. Yeah,
the people, my friend.
Don't you get a massive cut there, bro? Are you obviously very tiny, or is that a very big mug?
No, it's quite aggressive. It's definitely aggressive. But this is the secret. Depending on what time of the day, no one knows what's in it. That's the ninja move.
Your choice at the moment. What time is it in San Fran at the moment? It's about just after lunch, isn't it?
It's 1:27. So who knows? I will never. It will be like Tim the Toolman Taylor on Home Improvement, and there's the next door neighbor, and you can never see. Question. Oh, the bro Joseph. What up? He is such a G. Morning, guys. Good to see this conversation. David, I'm curious to hear what industries New Zealand can do best in after the COVID wave. Oh, it's a big call, mate.
I'm looking for my crystal ball. Okay.
Well, do you want me to? I'll start with one, and then I'll give you time to. Okay, and then you can spin over. Okay. My prediction is, and I've been talking about this a couple of times, is if we can be good in this first wave for the medical side, and then if New Zealand becomes globally known to be open for business globally, there's going to be a lot of other countries in the Northern Hemisphere that are still potentially either locked down or they haven't been able to get the medical side on lock, but they have businesses that need to be operating. I could see a huge wave of businesses and remote offices and companies actually set up shop here just to be able to operate, because people can physically move about and do things. The second thing I think of, it would make a huge increase in with the immigration sort of side of things. That's going to be too much of a shit show, people in and out, which means they would be hiring people, GMs and people locally, to be able to actually run those companies. So I think there could be a massive wave of global businesses set up in New Zealand. Easy to set up and work from, and then also a massive wave of hiring for these companies locally. That is one thing, and it's, I guess, not a particular industry, but it's a prediction of, if we can beat the world, if everyone in the world right now, a country has a medical and a financial problem. If we can be one of the first to beat the medical problem first, and we can start to attack the financial, we can almost win by default if everyone else is potentially still locked down. So that's not that that's a strategy, but if we could win by default, it would mean billions and billions and billions of dollars into the economy. That is my one pick. Dave?
Nice. Excellent. I've got two probably that would build on what you're saying. One is the food sector that I mentioned earlier. I think our traditional strengths in primary production will continue to be a strength for New Zealand, and And so that stuff is going to be huge. But just building on what Robett said, I completely agree. We have the opportunity, I suppose, to really accelerate the uptick in the high tech, in
Yes.
inverted commas, because it's not always
Yeah.
technology, but that kind of knowledge economy piece that we've been doing well at. We've been doing very well at, actually. But it's a pretty rapidly growing curve. We can accelerate and double down on that. And just picking out Joseph, he's the one that answered this question. I mean, the work that he's done around the Global Technology Visa and
Visa, yep.
the Edmund Hillary Fellows has proven that it's talent. Go back to the great phrase from Sir Paul Callaghan: New Zealand should be the place where talent wants to live, and it is. Joseph's proved that with the work that he's done. So, right, how do we harness the amazing brains and accelerate this kind of weightless economy and the work that's been already growing like this? I mean, you look at the tin report. Every year it's going up, massively. We can just keep accelerating that, and that's. I think that's something we. To your point, Robert, I think that's where we've got, we've got the brain power, we've got the opportunity. Globally, we're well regarded now. So that's where I'd see that we've got big opportunity as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because you see that, like, I believe, I think it was, I could be wrong the numbers. Is it within 2 years that tech will be the second biggest export in New Zealand?
Yeah.
It's on track to.
Well, how you count that, but yeah, it's not dodginess, but depends what you count as export. But certainly, where the trajectory had been that the food and beverage sector, tourism, and technology with a 3 or 4, and there's education as well, and technology is on a much steeper trajectory to overtake tourism. I mean, it would already now, unfortunately, and this is we're not sort of saying it's a good thing. Technology will now be the second biggest industry. It already is, I'm sure, because tourism is just crunched to a halt. That's not a good thing. But yeah, that curve, that technology curve, will continue to grow, and the opportunity will be there to continue to grow as well.
I wonder if VC funds, investors, all the rest of it, within a spot like this, if you look at the wave of where momentum's actually come from in the tech space, you wonder if they will actually start to deploy their investments a little bit differently after this. I know Sam was talking about yesterday that within his fund he was at 1.5 billion now, and he's saying, we can start to buy hospitals and start to double down on localism, start to do this. You wonder if that wave's sort of going up a bit too. Joseph says agree on software and agri-tech, food, but also manufacturing.
Yeah, which is, if you think about the New Zealand economy up until now, certainly in the work that we do at NZTE, those are massive parts of it. Agri-tech, something I'm personally involved in quite a lot through my work in government, and we see a big opportunity for New Zealand to be a world leader in agri-tech. So that's the technology around food production, at a very simple sense. And we've got great credibility, and we've got a huge opportunity globally for us to take the great work we've already done and build on it. So I think we're right there. Manufacturing is also, for some people they'd be surprised, but New Zealand has been a very successful manufacturing economy in the last 20 years, but not in broad, mass production, in very niche and specialized manufacturing. Think about Fisher and Paykel Healthcare at the moment. Talk about probably one of the most valuable businesses in New Zealand, I'd say right now. They make masks for ventilation units. So they are absolutely at the center of success at the moment.
Yeah, it's always wondering where this is going to pop out. If you were you've been through hardships, health shit, crazy shit. Headspace wise, business owners right now and a lot of employees are stressed out of their flipping mind. Like obviously you're very blessed. You've got a pretty safe, controlled household. You've got some consistent, I guess, revenue. You don't have to worry about necessarily the next paycheck like potentially many. Your headspace, you're going through your stuff, probably get a different perspective after with cancer and that, right? And I'm just kind of wondering. Obviously, I haven't been through that, but I know that you have to gear up mentally different when certain things sort of come up. How did you mentally gear up for what you knew you were about to face when you went through it? Because I can imagine that same type of strategy or methodology or thinking would probably help a lot of people that are maybe in a tougher spot right now than most.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I guess just to explain the short version of it is I was diagnosed with cancer, which, that was a journey I was on for a few years, and it was very bleak for a year or so, where I thought that, well, we all thought that it was terminal, and I was probably not able to be fixed, and I ended up getting a amazing breakthrough treatment called CAR T cell therapy. But, that's the background. The mental side of it, the bit that probably the best bit of advice I ever had when I was going through this was from my wife. Who at the end of every day, no matter how bad that day was, would be lying on the couch, throwing up, whatever it would be. She would just say, "Hey, that's one more day. You just did one more day. This is the tactics versus strategy discussion. You've got to have a strategy. Strategy is where you're going in the long term. What's your purpose? But actually, sometimes in a scenario like we're in at the moment, it's the tactics that matter. And the tactics are, what are you going to do every single day? What are the rhythms and what are the little habits you'll form? And for me, what I found to be very useful was creating some, really positive mindset habits. This is going to sound all woo-woo, but it's
stuff that. I'm with it, man. I get it.
You absolutely cannot let yourself get into this spiral of negativity and doubt and stress and if there's anything that's kind of good about what's going on at the moment, it's that's happening to everybody. It's not your fault that your business is not doing well at the moment. It's not your fault that you can't pay your employees. So take that whole bit out of your lexicon of blame and focus it on, okay, what can I do? And given the scenario I'm in and what the controls that I've got, what can I do? And that's a positive mindset, not a negative mindset. So for me, that one day closer thing was always, okay, that just means get up in the morning, have a shower, make your bed. If that's all you can achieve that day, at least you achieved something. And that's it. When I was in healthcare, in these sorts of scenarios, it can be, right, how can I reach out to the people that work for me, or reach out to my customers, or reach out to my suppliers, or whatever it might be, and basically help everybody else and create that one more day. So just get these little tactics going, so that at the end of the day, you feel like you did something better than sitting on the couch doing nothing. And as I say, that mindset issue about put yourself in this frame of, actually, this is something I've got control over. I can make a difference here, versus I'm a victim to what's going on. Just that little switch in mind shift has a huge impact on everything.
Like it's happening to me. There's this Navy SEAL instructor, and he was saying the way that they mentally would get through Hell Week would be, obviously, the 7 days of 24 hours carnage the entire time, and they were saying I think they get about 2 hours sleep for the week. His thing was the next meal. Just get to the next meal, because they have to feed you every 6 hours. So everything else, he didn't even care about days. He didn't care about anything. He was like, next meal. Just that one step forward, that one thing extra. And what it feels is tough is, it's not that they don't have the mental resilience. They don't know the strategies to mentally be able to take into those situations where it's like, okay, I need to have my framework up of, this is my physical workspace, this is my personal time, this is my family time, and actually compartmentalize and bring into the real world, or else the balance gets off. I've got a friend of mine who, if he doesn't, go for runs and stuff and physically go out and get away, his brain gets things and he brings that energy home, and it's kind of a negative energy to the household. I've got other friends who, they need their different sort of routes. So it's almost like, knowing yourself, find your habits. I think that's a really,
that just creates that sense. There's a really interesting experiment that was done in Stanford University years ago with rats. I'm going off on a tangent, but I'll come back again, I promise. Where they put some rats in an experiment, and they basically gave them random electric shocks, and it's a horrible experiment. And basically, the stress levels in the rats go so high that they die. Okay, and that's horrible. Then they said, well, what? Okay, let's change that up. Let's give the rat some sense of control or ownership of the space. So they set up a scenario where the rat could actually move things around in their environment and had some control. And they gave it exactly the same amount of electric shock, same sort of randomness, etc. But those rats lived a hell of a lot longer, and their stress levels were lower. And the conclusion is, I'm doing a very poor job of describing the experiment, but the conclusion is here that when you've got a sense of purpose or control or meaning, going back to that book I mentioned earlier, your ability to deal with adversity is much, much higher. Your ability to deal with stress. If you see yourself as a victim and as out of control in this environment where the world is turmoil around you, you will be highly stressed and you will react badly. If you can put yourself in the mindset of someone who's in control, even if that control point is like your friend going for a run, or segmenting the time with the family from the time from work, or like I did when I was sick, is tidying my room. That was my big thing of control because that's all I could do. That has such a big impact. And again, it sounds a bit woo-woo, but it's absolutely, believe it's true.
And I asked that because most elite sports people have a similar type mindset of how they get into that zone of how they have to compartmentalize for elite. I get execution of physical activity, but it's a mental approach, and I've seen the same thing in gnarly CEOs, elite sports people, or ex-military. Those are the three types of people I've seen, and I was wondering. That's why I asked about your the health stuff, because whenever you would be in a situation like that, that level of I guess thinking really sort of matters. So no, that totally makes sense, man. That definitely makes sense.
So I think that's for the people that are watching or listening. The key thing is if you're feeling out of control, take some steps to put yourself in that mindset of control, and that's the simplest way of saying it. And that could be a very simple thing, like, or it could be something hard for you to do. Like, I remember being young and having a credit card. My credit card got way out of control. And I was like, oh, shit, I can't pay it. I don't know what I'm going to do. And every day it felt worse and worse. It was like this huge rock that was just being put on me and I couldn't land. And then one day I just summoned up the courage and called the bank and said, hey, I've got a really big problem. I don't know what to do with this credit card. Immediately that weight lifts. Yeah, you still owe the money. The reality is still the same, but your attitude's different because now you've got a sense of control. You could negotiate with the bank, and this is a good scenario at the moment. Don't hide from the big problems, but actually think about how you can walk towards them and have some sense of ownership.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. Any other stuff you want to plug in? I've got the I think this is awesome, by the way. This is such a cool idea.
Cool.
I like even this little brand, the SOS. It's like with this little the ring in the middle.
We're actually probably going to change the name because SOS Cafe. We start off with cafes, but now we've got bars, restaurants. We've got a couple of massage therapy people. We've got like a barber shop. So we'll probably change it to SOS Business. Save our small business.
Yeah.
So but that's what happens when you're a little business owner. Oh yeah, the key thing again, this is for me, is my sense of being able to have purpose and meaning. In this period, if I don't mind spending 4 or 5 hours a day helping something like this because I know it's going to help other people. So if you've got the opportunity, and as I mentioned earlier, if spending money, the money you spend is someone else's income. So if you can spend $5 or $10 or whatever that you normally would have spent for lunch, then go for it. If you can't afford it, don't. I get it, but if you can, just try and keep the economy going.
Yeah. No, I appreciate your time, man. I know you're a busy man with fingers and mini pies, and good on you for the support that you're doing for others, and appreciate you having Ian on.
And good on you for all these sessions you're doing. They are very valuable. I love it. Good work.
I appreciate it, bro. Yeah, it's as I said, like just talking about you've got your 4 or 5 hours to do stuff. The reason I decided to push double down on it is my emails and messages started to get pretty gnarly with people who are in my network, and they were asking similar stuff, and I realized that there was no platform that people are talking about the things. So I now know what they're asking, and so I'm just like, okay, who's in my Rolodex that knows about this shit? All right, boom. And I'm just like, I'm not even feeling bad to hit them up. I'm like, yo, I want you on. Yep, flip and go. Everyone's like, yep. And
so, which is good people on there, and then people like me who sit around doing nothing. But you've had some great sessions. And Lady, last little point for you at a time like this. Remember one of the golden rules of business, which is always be selling. And this is a really good book available on Kindle.
Well, yeah, clearly not in What Kills or anyone because you can't physically buy it. Love your work, brother.
All right, man. See you soon.
Later, bro. Peace. What a flippin' good bastard. Dave Downs, champ. Good ideas. Get the habits, get the thinking space. And his book that he recommended was Man's Search for Meaning. Man's Search for Meaning. See you soon, team. Let the good times roll. Hope your Wednesday's going well. See you soon.